Welcome to CLARITY.SHOW podcast. I'm Karyna, your host today. My guest is Lasse Rindom, who is AI lead at Basico. In today's episode, we are going to explore the concept of AI agents, what works, what doesn't, and we also will capture some topics in regards of implementing such tools in enterprises. Lasse, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm looking forward to discussing our topics. But before we start, I would like to let you introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Karyna, and thank you for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be here today, and I look forward to a meaningful conversation around AI agents and AI in general. So my name is Lasse Rindom. I am the AI lead at Basico, as you said. I'm in Copenhagen right now. And my job for Basico is to help contextualize AI for enterprise leaders and inspire them and help them design and build AI solutions that bring value. So I'd say, from at Basico, we work from a predominantly brownfield perspective. So we believe that things are out there already, things exist, and companies operate because they have a value proposition that they're performing very well. So my role is very much to break down the hype and see how we can turn AI into solutions that work for companies in the context of how they're operating today. So this also means, obviously, that the whole hype cycle becomes something that I'm constantly attacking because it's a very one-sided communication. I think I'll get back to that today, but it's very, one-sided, do this. But in reality, is that you need to have a conversation around change.
It's a very important statement that those tools should bring some values. And let's discuss how and what exactly they can bring to enterprises.
Yeah, and I also, host, of course, the Only Constant podcast where I speak to a lot of business leaders. And you also know that, Karyna, so just want to mention that as well. So I discuss hype and philosophy and all that a lot as well. So that's natural for me to go into those kind of discussions as well. I hope that'll be fine today as well.
And today you're on the other side, and you will experience it yourself, how to be questioned about different topics. All right. So we hear right now a lot about how AI agents will transform the way how enterprises driving their operations. But before we start to discuss it, I would like you ask to bring here the concept of AI agents in the simple words for our audience. What it is, how does it work, and maybe some real examples how business can use AI agents.
So I think, the real examples and, the real difference they're making in the business today, I think it's easy to say what they're not really doing today, right? So there's a lot of buzz and hype around AI agents. It's a word that's come out in the market and sort of, again, distorted the discussion a little bit. So it seems like, and we also saw this with previous hype cycles, for instance, with RPA, where suddenly it became hyper automation, then it became intelligent automation, then it became whatnot, intergalactic automation, whatever you want, right? So it just keeps on sort of inflating words. So you need to have new words so you can go to market with new words and say this is something different. Oh, you only had an RPA set up. Oh, but you need a hyper automation set up, right? So I think we're at the same stage right now with AI, also because AI is sort of a catchphrase, catch-all phrase that doesn't really catch anything. So it's like we have AI and that's all of the old machine learning stuff you did, but also generative AI. Oh, it's also video generation. It's also whatever you want, right? So it becomes a little bit fluffy, very fluffy, right? So now we're saying AI agents instead of, and I think when we talk about AI agents, a lot of companies will probably think we're still talking about the AI we spoke about last year, the LLMs, the generative AI solutions. But really, if we sort of boil it down a little bit, an agent is someone who's proactive, is able to do things. So it's the activity aspect of it that's important, how it's able to act on its own. And if we apply that to a normal IT solution logic or a normal business logic, you'd say most problems, let me just rewind a little bit, okay? So you take agility, right? You use agility or agile principles when you have something that's complex you need to solve, something we don't know the outcome of it. But if you know the outcome of it, if it's complicated or simple, you just map it out and then you do it with a waterfall approach, right? So you fix it. In IT terms, the waterfall approach would be similar to a deterministic automation or deterministic code or system or something, database logic, whatever you want to do in software, right? Software is basically, interfaces built on top of data and databases. So the deterministic aspect is for something that's simple or complicated. But if you have something that's complex, what do you do then? Right? We haven't been able to sort of fix that with code before because it is complex. We don't know what's going on. We don't know what's going to hit us. We can do that with AI today. So that's where I think AI agents come in, and AI in general has a really big room to big boots to fill, not boots to fill, really big space. So all of the things that is sort of unstructured or non-deterministic. But this also means that when we're talking about AI agents that can do anything, we are sort of saying that if we build AI agents to run everything in our enterprises, we're also assuming, on the other hand, they're good for solving the complex issues, but we're also assuming that the whole world is complex if we say that everything should be run with AI agents. And I think that's where the sort of the chain falls off the bike for me, right? I don't. That's a saying in Danish. Sorry, that the chain, so you can't run anymore because it doesn't make sense to me. Most things we do in companies, in general, societies, organizations, and in enterprises, we pull in things from the outside world and then we structure it and we make it work. That's how civilization is. It's an order in chaos. That's what enterprises are as well, a sort of a way of digesting information, making it simpler, and then transacting and pushing it out to someone else out there who's gonna use whatever we're doing. Even if it's iron, we take raw iron ore in and we turn it into some iron you can buy. That it's the ordering process, right? So we order things. That also means that most of the things that enterprises work on, organizations work on, societies work on, are deterministic, structured processes. It has to be. So turning your entire enterprise into an agile agent is, I don't know. It seems over the top for me. It seems like saying we need agents for everything is assuming the whole world is and is supposed to be complex. Does that make sense, Karyna? Or am I overcomplicating it?
No, I definitely agree with you about the statement that we don't need to turn entire enterprise into agentic approach, and we should still leave some simple process as they are and continue to work on them. The only thing where we can feel the real values and the real improvements, real next stage of automation, which is bring us either like a free time or additional values like a revenue or whatever, then we should pick this process. And probably if you have enough of data patterns of the actions, we should automate it. And this is very important that you brought right now here, because my next question was actually very close attached to it. A lot of enterprises, they right now trying to pursue this hype of our AI agentic approach. They're hearing that this is another way of automation and everybody should jump on this ship. But the question, are they really need to do it? And then let's discuss the common issues that companies right now have pursuing this AI hype with automation with AI agents, and maybe you can provide us some practical examples how they can reduce it or eliminate it all.
Oh yeah. So most of the things that people are actually experiencing when they're trying to work with AI agents today is that you need to map out a process, and not just a process as we used to do, like I said, deterministic processing before, but we need to sort of map out what could be the outcomes of different things. So what if we do this? What if this happens? What if everything happens? This means that your testing cycle for an agent is much, much longer and bigger. As I said, it's a complex thing. So it's a solution for complexity. So you need to map out the complexity to sort of test it. And then you're sort of back to scratch, square one, right? You're back to, if you're mapping it all out, why don't you just do something deterministic? So the agentic approach still becomes weird, because what is it we're trying to make it do, right? Everything. It's supposed to, the cool thing is, and I get the point, I get it, right? We see it's working on the computer and it looks like, oh, I just told it to go buy sneakers for me online. Okay, so it goes buy sneakers, right? And it looks really neat, nice, and cool. But then, what about, the 1% of cases where it sort of just starts Googling whales or something like that, and that was not the point. That was not what you wanted it to do, and you're like, oh, that's okay, let's move on. But if you put that into an automation, you give it read access and write access to all your systems, you can't have that kind of hallucinations, right, where it just moves off the rail. And that's the problem. So you need to guard it in, but not guard it in, and map out the process, but not map out the process. And I know that from some of my own interviews in my podcast, I know that this is a challenge when you're building these solutions into production in systems as well, is that you need to figure out what is the process all about and what shouldn't it be able to do. But it should be able to do everything, but not this and that and that, right? And that's extremely difficult. So that also means that although it looks like it's simple just putting it to work, you need to actually be very careful that you only use it where you really have something that requires this kind of agility in your computer systems. And then, because it takes a lot of effort to actually build it so that it will handle these issues and not handle them wrong or not handle the wrong issues, right? It's not easy.
Yes, and it's very important to not handle the wrong issues. And I'm also interested in hearing from your side. You mentioned that you had in one podcast also information about how to bring AI agents into productions. Do you aware about the usual life cycle timeline from the stage where we identified that, hey, here we have some specific cases, really valuable cases for AI agents, till the posting them, deploying them into production? So what this road can take for the enterprises, how long?
Well, it can actually move very, very quickly if you know what you want to do. If you have identified, we need to have it. The agentic thing, if you take just an AI and build that into an automation, it can go very, very quickly. So you can just basically, pull in some data, have it analyze it, push it out again in the other end, and then 1, 2, 3, you have an automation doing something for you, right? That you can also measure with a KPI. But building an agent that's supposed to handle a process end to end, that do all kinds of things in it, and have read and write access to your systems and ability to send emails on its own and everything, well, that requires a lot of testing, and that it completely depends on the severity of the process, and if it goes wrong, how long it will take to actually test that. It's not something you can say this will take you 1 week, because the tech might take you 1 week, but then the testing will take you 5 weeks. It was the same. Actually, it was the same with RPA. It became easier to build, but it took a lot longer to actually test it. Testing, for some weird reason, whenever we make something that's easier to build, it takes much longer to test it. I don't know why it is that way, but it just is. Maybe because development time usually was maybe this much, and then testing was this compared to, but now the proportions have just changed. So, but testing is still the same. So you still need to spend a lot of time testing. But I think actually with AI and with AI agents, we're sort of expanding the testing time because there's so many outliers of what could actually happen that we need to be aware of and figure out that it's not going to do. It's a different thing when you have something like a productivity chatbot, you're just using as an employee to do things, because there's no risk involved in that, and you're always checking what's going on. And so it's a completely different thing to actually have something doing some things on its own where it can hallucinate, and it does hallucinate, doesn't it, Karyna?
Yes, I just wanted to say that maybe this testing cycle is longer than in usual traditional development, just because that it's partially a black box for us, and we can't predict when it can hallucinate, why it can hallucinate, and we're also adopting slowly. Like, we are playing with different prompts, we are seeing what works, what doesn't, and then based on it, this testing is continuous. And also we need to have reliability on those tools, so we need to test them
Did
many
you see
times.
those? You saw these O1s, right? O1, OpenAI O1, the new model, not new anymore, but O3 was just announced. But it's sort of like just taking itself into the power, right? So it's just asking itself constantly. And the problem is that I read something about they'd done some testing to see if it would break out of itself and or something like that. And there was like quite high percentage, 5 to 10% of cases where it tried to remove its own guardrails. It wanted to do that when it went thinking a little bit. So for me, that became sort of like, okay, so I'd rather have the world sort of ending in, I don't know, nuclear Armageddon because someone planned it, than having it happen because some machine inferred the wrong route, right? It just, like I said before, that it could sometimes people have had these computer use AI agents actually start Googling weird stuff, right? That was not part of the original question, because they kept, your original prompt started it, but then it sort of got thoughts along the way. So it became like, I don't know, an ADHD AI, right? And we don't really need that, do we? Yeah, for creativity and productivity, yes, okay, but for agentics, I'd rather have a little bit more control, right?
Yes, yes, new tools. It's also like the question is very good. Rather we need it is or not, like the functionalities that they provide. I also had some sort of reflection overall on the social media. Why do we need it and how it help us and how they dictate us? It dictate us what to do, how to post, what to post, and so on.
Yeah, you
So
know what? I just New Year, just day before New Year, I wrote my 10 predictions for next year, and they're also always mock predictions, right? One of my predictions was that Meta, everyone on Meta suddenly had weird fingers because and they had 8 trillion users, and no one's even blinking because that makes sense completely, right? But the point was, that they just everyone on Facebook became AI agents. And then later in that day, I posted that it was Meta announced that they were going to put more AI users into Facebook. Like, what? So this is happening, right? This is becoming a thing. That's why we're going to use agents to sort of just create even more smaller rooms where we don't speak to each other anymore and just speak to our AI. Is that what we want to do with it, right? And it brings me back to the things you actually asked me about before, is that we should not necessarily just focus on the technology. It's really, really important, right? If things are technically feasible, they will become ethically viable and be something we do. And that's my biggest worry right now, actually, that we will end up saying, okay, it's okay with just, AI agents all over Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever, and we're not speaking to each other anymore. That's why we need to focus on the problem we want to solve with this rather than the technology, because if we just take the technology, we'll be implementing whatever they tell us to implement. But we need to implement the things that actually caters to our value proposition. And if the value proposition you see on social media is to speak to people, you shouldn't be speaking to an AI agent. And if the value you have in your company is to talk to your customers, you shouldn't be automating that interaction with your customers. I think that is super important to tell people some things should not just be done with technology because it's feasible. We need to discuss what do we want to do, what's actually the problem, what is our challenge, how do we want to grow, who are we, right?
yes, it's very
That's as
important.
societies, enterprises, everyone.
It's very important to develop new features and tools in alignment with the needs of the customers and their ethics, like what do we really need and what will remain as human, like this human-centric approach of implementing different AI tools. Rather in enterprises or even in our personal life, we always should put humans first and our needs first.
Well, if it makes sense to put humans first, right? I mean, Karyna, sometimes it doesn't, right? But if we talk about I don't need to have a human first in ordering new toilet paper for the toilet, right? But I'd rather have it if it's like an employee is dissatisfied with something his boss said. I'd rather, instead of having an AI agent talk to that employee, I might have an HR person speak to that employee instead, right? Or maybe just some cases here, so some examples. I'm just saying that we need to design this. We need to figure out where does it make sense to use humans and where doesn't it make sense to use humans, right? Right now, they're just putting it everywhere, right? And that also, they are putting it everywhere. That which brings me to also a point that I'm always making. You also asked me what advice would I give people when they're pursuing AI hype right now, is to look at how is it actually going to come into your systems and the things you're already working with, because that's twofold. One is that you might get some AI features in your current software that you didn't want, but you're going to get it because they just implement it. And two, you won't be getting any new AI software if you haven't modernized your system. So just two important things to remember as well.
Right, to see it strategically like entire roadmap for implementation, not just consider right now that we need to spend our monies for AI in the company, but also like long-term goals, objectives, what we want to achieve in the future and how these solutions that we choose, the tools that we choose will help us to achieve those goals, how it will develop, how transparent they are in terms of like supporting us and other things. So we partially covered also this question about how to recommend specific AI tools. Doesn't matter for AI agents overall, for enterprises. Maybe you have any additional advices, like we touched that there is a ChatGPT, for example, that enterprises can use right now for their processes, or some specific like Salesforce, SAP, they also provide different AI solutions. So how to choose the right vendor, how to choose the right tool, maybe besides of the strategic and besides of the either this is a reasonable process to automate or not, you have any additional advices?
No, well, the thing is, I always tell people that they need to make sure they go to the newest version of their core systems, because they will be building AI into the systems. So you can't have something legacy in your basement on an on-prem server. You're not going to get AI in that in the future. So you need to sort of modernize. And modernization is a really, really big agenda in AI right now. And I think people are sort of overlooking that, looking very much narrowly on I don't know, ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, where you really need to look at your Business Central or your SAP or your Oracle something system, right? And see, are they modern, right? And do we even have our data in the cloud? Is our data, I don't know, stored away on floppy disks somewhere, right? Yeah. Yeah, but a lot of enterprises are still on premises, right? And 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 that's one aspect of the modernization aspect, but also realizing, right, that change is not really about technology, uh, but about people and how people use technology. And I always say that AI is not a success until your most busy employees use it and use it all the time and won't live without it. And are we there yet with AI, with ChatGPT and LLMs? We're getting there with just the productivity tools, right? But are we there with all the helpful tools and platforms? Do people even have the time to test them out? I don't see that right now, right? This is not really it's not really a tool question. It's about a time. It's about an awareness. About upskilling. It's about getting people to use these tools and see they can make them better. And then also, sometimes waiting and see if this is going to come in an upgrade to the systems they're already working in, and then maybe see them take the leap into AI with that system that they're already working in, right? Does that make sense? So sort of, where are people today, and sort of move them from where they are. It's one of the things that I'm constantly wondering about the most myself, is how do I get the busy employee to actually adopt this, right? Even in my own company, we have tons of super busy consultants who are not using AI, and I'm like, when I asked them, I get why you're not using it. You don't have time for it, but do you have time not to? It's it's arrogant to say you should use it or you're obsolete. I have no clue if they're obsolete. I have absolutely no clue, and they're still being uh, used widely and broadly and a lot, right? So they are definitely not obsolete. Does that make sense, right? I'm just trying to say that there's an arrogance in the AI market, saying that if
Yeah.
you don't use it, you're obsolete. No, not necessarily. Not right now, at least.
We definitely have to consider the entire landscape. What do we have? What solutions? And how this additional tool can enhance their functionality, or should we replace them right now? Because this is the right time, because we do entire business transformation at the moment. It's the same like if you are driving old car, and if you buy right now the new engine, but at the same time you have like a hole in the car and it can't functional, then this new engine won't help you. So you need holistically overview your entire landscape and understand where and what will bring some additional values and automate the processes that you want.
Yeah, well, I think that I can't remember who it was. I think it was actually Kurt Kegel some months back. I don't know if he still agrees to that, but he said that on LinkedIn that he always had a problem with the full self-driving cars because people still had to be in the cars. So it's like if you just could get I don't know, Copilot, you still have to ask Copilot instead of writing it yourself. How many the break even, right? Where's the break even? The break even is very, sometimes trim. Sometimes you get, the result immediately you want it when you prompt. Sometimes you have to reprompt over and over, and sometimes it disturbs your chain of thought, and then it doesn't produce what you want, and then you wasted time. I've tried that as well. I don't know if you have, Karyna, but sometimes it's just not that simple. Automation is not just saying this tool will do it. If you have to order the tool as well, so getting people to get value from this. And I think more and more in the future, we will see more and more AI solutions being built that you can sort of activate that will do something catered specifically. It's like agents, but I rather call it roles. I've been more fond of the word AI roles because I don't want an agent to be proactive with a license to kill, right? I want to have an agent that will go on stage, perform the thing I asked it to perform, and then go down again. So, and using an AI agent like that, or a role like that, So I can say, this is my AP role. I'm just asking, can you write this reminder for the customer to pay his bills? Bam, there we go. Okay, and it knows how to write that, and it only does that. It doesn't do anything else. Okay, that's a role that will work, and that will also make it productive for people who are busy, right? But having something where they have to go into a raw LLM and asking it to design this email all over and over, that will not work. And also having something that will just send out reminders to every client on its own. I don't, sometimes maybe you have a special client you don't want to send reminders to because I don't know, they're the biggest company in the world or something, and you're really happy you landed them and you don't want to disturb them. But there are different reasons all the time. You can of course program that and tell it what to think, but then you're spending so much time instructing it. So finding a way to have it perform a role that you ask it to perform, I think at least in the next 5 years is what's going to give the most value. Also because it's one thing that we have technology that is really, really good. It's a completely different thing to attach that technology to every little thing we do in every company, to all the people, to all the processes, to all the data, to all the systems. That takes time.
So it's important, as I understood, to control the output. And right now we are not there. Like, we still can't predict some outputs that we are getting from the LLM. Like, for example, if you take the raw LLM and write a prompt, you can't be 100% sure that when the next time you will send the same prompt, you will get the same answer, because again, it's a black box. And we can't predict when it will hallucinate, why it will hallucinate, and how to fix it exactly, right? There are some techniques, but still we are not in full control of it. And we need to understand how to design this implementation of AI in the way that we will know and we will predict and control what we can get as an output. At least like on the enterprise level, especially for the dangerous processes, such as like can affect our revenue or can affect do some harmful things for people, for our employee. All right,
Yeah, but that's also, sometimes I think the whole chain of AI roles where they control each other as well. I think that's something we need to look at a little bit more before we just have them go, move on. Have one agent produce something, have another one control that it actually produced what we expected. Then you already reduce your hallucinations a lot, tenfold. I think I've seen some studies around that, and I just. I'm a little bit annoyed that we're not talking more about that before we're talking about agents and before we're doing this, these loop inference circles with the O1s and all that. Because I don't want. As I said, I've said multiple times also today. I don't want proactive agents right now. I want something that can actually do what I'm asking it to do.
All right. This is very important that for AI agents, we have to have in our landscape the agents that will review the process themselves and question itself either this is the right action or not. And after this reasoning will send output to us. So if we have such kind of like controlling agent, it will be beneficial for implementation.
Yeah, we can at least. I feel like, and you're putting it right by asking this question, because it becomes blurry, right? It becomes something where we're saying, am I talking for or against this agentic thing? I am actually saying that I want to narrow it down. I want to make sure we can implement it on problems that we can identify, where we can have a reasonable KPI, so we can say, okay, it worked, it didn't work. I don't like this. I don't like the computer use thing where you just put it to do whatever, and that's what I feel is a little bit the goal of the whole agentic aspect, is to have a hallucinating, right now at least, essentially hallucinating AI model just taking over and doing things on your computer. Will that get better, the model, over time? Yeah, we'll be using more techniques, we'll give it more memory, all that will probably get better. But right now, I don't think that's where we should go. I think we should see, can we actually just make simple roles that perform simple things and are controlled by another AI role, and where we can measure this specific thing it's doing. So people see, okay, this is adding productivity that we can measure. This will also mean the world for adoption, because then your most busy people will be using AI and will be happy for using it. So I think we just need to take it down a little bit. I think we're talking agents so much, it's going to be stressing out a lot of people, and I don't think that makes anything good in a hype market. Because agents, what do you know? It sounds like someone some James Bond who doesn't even adhere to any rules, right? Do we want? I don't want that. It looks cool. It isn't cool in an enterprise context. Imagine hiring a person saying you can do whatever you want to. Every person is also restricted, and that's part of it, right? Sometimes slow is a design. I always say. Sometimes we want things to be slow because we want to have control.
Right. So it's very important before we start to consider any agents, and I definitely agree that we are here not to discussing either this is a bad thing or good thing. It's here, it's important, it's additional tool which can help us if we will apply it in the right place, in the right moment, with the right data and at the right scale. And I believe that for leaders, it's important to answer at least three main questions. Why? So why do we need it? Then what it will bring us? Either we understand what it brings us right now, in 3 years, in 5 years, are we clear about it? So literacy and upskilling, everything is important. The culture in organization and how we are going to utilize it in the future and with what tools.
You also said, you said life cycle earlier today, and you said life cycle in building it, right? But there's a life cycle also to maintaining things, and some of the problems is, you might do something that's smart today, but it will be, a pain in the something later, right? And do we even know that right now with AI? No, we don't. We have no clue, And I know that some of the big tech providers, they're building into systems, they have the same issues, right? They don't necessarily know what will happen when they update the model. Will that change the way our AI automation is working? This is not just something that I'm fumbling with, or you're fumbling with, or enterprises are fumbling with. This is something that everyone's fumbling with. What do we do with version controlling? Because they just update it all the time. So that's where we're at right now. We have no clue how this will look on a maintenance side. And frankly, if a good bot is a working bot, so if it doesn't work in 2 years, it doesn't really matter, right? And I think people need to also realize that a little bit before we just go full-scale agentic on this. Will this come in 10 years? Most probably, or 10, 15. Who knows how long it will take before it's attached, as I said before, to all our data, processes, people, technology, systems, all the things we're doing, our value proposition, our customers, our vendors, our public authorities and rules and regulations need to be attached to all of that. And who knows how long that's going to take. And then we might see something different. But right now, we just need to make sure that, it brings value where we're actually using it concretely, and that we can maintain things we're building to some extent.
Right. Great. You explained the third part that I wanted to say, like how, how exactly. So why, what, and how. Great. So if we say that, okay, some enterprises are ready for AI agents implementations, they understand why, what, and when, and how, and they answered all those questions. This human AI collaboration, how do you vision it? How it should work, like either we are supervisor, either we are collaborator, either we are doing something for AI agents. So what is the next step of this collaboration?
I think the big task for the future right now is to design this human-in-the-loop and AI collaboration. As you also said, your question is also about that. We shouldn't throw AI at everything just because we can, but because we can, we might end up doing it and then changing the normative of what we actually wanted to do, right? So we end up just throwing technology at things because we can do it and then just changing things. We need to start having discussions, as I said also earlier, about, with Zomi and everything, and about what are the problems and the solutions that we want to have and we don't want to have, and that the solutions that won't come back probably to bite us somewhere, right? As I said before, your customers, your most important people. Don't automate your interactions with them. You have to figure out when does it make sense to have a human in the loop, and that is a value proposition discussion companies need to have, and not a technology discussion. And that's actually the only reason I am starting to think, I've been very critical of that months back, that companies need to have some sort of AI strategy. They need to figure out what is the human in the loop design that they want to go for. What is the level of risk they want to accept? How are they going to govern it? What is the purpose of this? This is not something you just throw to your CIO and say, maintain this. This is something where you need to figure out, what should humans do in our company? What is the value for them? How are they relevant still, right? AI will be splendid at generating solutions. And it is already splendid at generating a lot of solutions. But we need to remember that demand will forever remain a human task to generate. We are in control of demand. We demand what we want to happen, what we want to do, what we want things to do for us, right? I always go back to this this Bible thing, and maybe it's esoteric. I don't know if people even understand what I'm trying to say, but God created everything, the whole world. If you just go with me here, so God created everything, and then He created Adam, and then for some weird reason before He created Eve, I don't know why, He told Adam to give name to everything, every animal, name all the animals, right? And why didn't God just name all the animals when He created them? Because He needed Adam to give value to His creation. That is actually the point of that part of the myth, is that humans, we give value to things around us. And what we name has value. What we don't name has no value. And that's the point. And it's not like a task we can just throw away. This is, and not just because it's in the Bible, but I actually truly believe that demand side is an inherently human task. What do we want to do with our existence? And it's not something we can ever throw to any kind of system. And if we do, we'll just move up the fractal of demand. And then demand will be demanding something of the demanding robots that will then provide. So, you get my point? We will always be the ones saying what we want, what is good in the world. The normative is our task.
Yes, right. And even mission to create some values and create some tools. Yes, bring the meanings to it and names.
And not AI agents' names, and some other name, please. I'm not naming it that. Yeah, I always annoyed that. I actually, when I remember that myth thing, I actually said, "Oh, Adam and Eve did that," and I looked it up. It's like, no, it was only Adam. Oh crap! Then it becomes a sexist thing again, right? Hate that. Why couldn't she just be there as well, right?
But in 2025, we allow for women also participate in naming.
If God would have built everything today, He definitely had Eve do it, right? And Adam may be on the side helping her as a sidekick, right?
I like this idea. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. And just to sum up what you said before, also about the KPIs metrics, all the goals about AI automation should be also smart. We need to set up some measurable objectives in advance, like how many human-in-the-loop interaction we will accept. What is an accuracy level of recognition, for example, if we are working with intelligent document processing, or how much automation we allow, and where we should consider something as a dangerous, non-dangerous. So I believe that every implementation project should start from these success metrics. Like business leaders, they need to identify what exactly we want, measurable we want with implementation of such tools, and then start their journey.
Well, there's two things to this, right? This new technology is new and it's novel, so we don't know how it's going to operate. As I said before, we don't know how to maintain it in the long run, right? It is. Now I'm using a metaphor again, but I feel like sometimes it's like when James Cook came to Australia and he saw these animals with pouches. He was like, "What is this? This is a horse? Can I milk it? Is it a cow? How do I just put it in a pasture like with the ducks? So probably not a duck, but with kangaroos at least. But this whole what is this animal, right? And what is this animal that we have now? And the only way we usually probe things is by trying to treat it the way we usually treat it. And I think that's actually also the reasonable way to treat this right now. This is still technology, and we're not coming to a completely new continent. I don't feel that. So let's just say, as you said, utilization by employees, cases solved. There's two, corner metrics, but also from IT uptime. Does it keep on working? Does it, is it doing things that are completely off the rails? Are we monitoring outliers? But it's just, figuring out what is the problem and what is the severity of it, and then what will you tolerate? I think that's the most important thing when you're talking about KPIs. And then sort of use the frameworks you've had for other technologies as well, initially at least, and then see do they match with this technology, or should we expect something else from it?
Your example is good because it also says that we need to experiment with it. We need to design something new. And each employee in the company, they become right now like designers of business processes, because previously we were mainly like interface driven and actions driven. We needed to execute something which was already defined before us, maybe even when we joined the company. And this is a process. It works and we continue to execute it. But now having new tools, it opened like level of creativity and imagination for employees. Well, we have something new. We're probably not sure how we can use it. So if I will try this way and that way, and maybe we will explore even on the way some new areas when we can even, by using those tools, have additional value, like extra value. So this sounds like a
But
bit
it's like,
optimistic and promising.
No, but it's like you asked me the lead time to build a solution. You said the life cycle of building a solution, and now asking about what are the KPIs that we should use for it, right? How should we track the success? And I always say that AI will not just be something that digitizes or digitalizes or provides insights or reports. AI is something that works across the field, right? And that also means that AI will be in almost everything. You've seen AI deodorants, you've seen AI toothbrushes, right? Refrigerators with AI in systems, AI in telephones. AI in everything, right? So we will end up also having to redefine our success metrics based on the use that it's going to be put to, right? That's just the way it is. And the same things, we're building the solutions. That depends on where you want to build it into. If you're going to build it into something that has no consequence, it's quite easy. If you want to build it into something, monitoring the US nuclear arsenal, I hope you'll take more than a week to test it. So for me, it is the flexible pace, right? We've had all tons of systems that can work between logics, big logic systems and bases, and AI can sort of take us the last step by working with unstructured data between systems as well, and the things we couldn't catch before, the agility that's sort of hidden somewhere, the things we couldn't catch with our technology previously, we can catch that with AI now. But that also means that it can be applied everywhere, and that KPIs and lead time will be completely dependent on the use case you want to use it for, and you'll have to discover a lot of that as well as you go along.
100%. And also, like, it depends on the way how we implementing new tools. For instance, if we take AI agents, it can be like vertical implementation, it can be horizontal, it can be role-based. We can design it differently, and based on it, we will have specific enterprise KPIs. And we shouldn't look at like what other companies are doing. It can bring us as inspiration, but we need to focus first of all on our internal goals, what we want to achieve and how we want to design it.
Yes. So domain knowledge, right? Focus on the problem.
Yes.
Always.
Very important. Start with why. Why are you doing it? Right. So this start of the year, 2025, and we mentioned that business leaders should consider a strategy for 2, 3, 5, whatever we can right now, plan something years. So how do you vision the future? You mentioned that you have post, and we will attach it in description for the reference about your predictions for 2025.
But that was a joke prediction. That was a mock prediction. Don't attach that. That was just a lot of jokes. But the funny thing is that they sometimes reflect things that are actually going on. I think I use humor a lot also on LinkedIn, because humor is sort of I don't know, this mirror to reality, right? That's the way it's always been. Also with the what's it called in English? The King's the Joker. He's not called the Joker. He's called something else. I can't remember his name right now.
I know it
but,
also.
But you know what I'm talking about, right? The juggler Joker thing. But he was sort of supposed to mock the king, so he represented a mirror to the king and to the power, right? To power. And the same way, I think humor is also something that reflects something. So you say this, and if it's funny, it's because it is telling something that is slightly true. Sarcasm and irony is good because it's slightly true all the time. So that's why I do that a lot. And the funny thing is about my mock predictions was that number 6 actually predicted the meta thing that they then said a couple of hours later that they were going to do. I'm like, what?
That's so funny.
So it was not fun. It was not even a joke. They actually... Whoa. Okay. Yeah. So don't attach that one necessarily, except if you find them funny. Obviously, always happy. You can always use my jokes and my posts.
And jokes and humor, it also brings additional emotions, and we learn better when it's attached to some feelings, like either it makes us sad or fun.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry. 1, 2, 3. Oh, because I lost something here. I don't know what happened. Sorry. Yeah, humor is super important because my boss always calls it, edutainment. So you educate and you entertain at the same time, and I don't think I can do it differently because that's just the way my mind works. If I can put it into a context that's also fun, then I know I'm bridging into the other people's way of thinking, and it's about all that timing stuff and all that, right? But you asked me about my predictions for the next years, right? Well, I'd say, I don't talk about AI. Talk about your data, talk about your systems, talk about modernizing, talk about your people, get people upskilled. Do that instead. Don't focus on whatever is coming out of the labs right now. Try to make a pause on it. I'm already stressed about having to follow along and what's going on because I see the disparity between what's actually coming out of the tech labs and what's actually going on in enterprises, which is such a wide gap, right? People are not even using AI today, and now you're supposed to have, I don't know, AI computer use agents and video generating. Who even likes that? Yeah, I think. Tom Goodman said it on my podcast Tom Goodman said it on my podcast. I want something that can help me with my registering my expenses, my timesheets, my all that. That's what I want. I don't want an AI who can generate some crappy video and I'm not going to look at. Where's the value, right? Where's the value? But I think that the value will come. But you need to make sure your house is in order. You need to make sure that this new technology that is taking off, right? And it's a supersonic, hypersonic plane. You need to make sure it can land on your airfield. So if you don't have an airport, if you don't have anything to structure your use of it, if you don't have any idea of an airline, how you want to get value from it, then you're not going to get any plane to land in your country. Sorry.
Good example. Yes. So basically, yeah, we need to not follow the buzzwords and just attach ourselves that AI will do everything and we need AI everywhere, but do smart and consider people, consider values, and consider the data that we have.
Yeah, people need to know that AI is there and AI is hallucinating. They need to know what's going wrong with it so they can prepare and sort of guard themselves against it. So we need to speak about AI a little bit, but I think we've spoken a lot about AI the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And now I think we need to speak about change. And I think also software vendors need to stop talking about AI, this, that. They need to just call their software their software. This is not Salesforce AI. This is just Salesforce. This is not Copilot for Business Central. This is just Business Central, right? Let's get this, I don't know, AI nonsense out of it again and just say, this is the solution. It works for you. We promise you it works. AI is sort of an excuse for saying this might not work, right? Am I not, seriously, Karyna, am I not right?
AI.
Yeah, because you say this is AI for blah blah, then we're like, okay, then it can maybe not work. Okay, let's expect that it works. Let's start expecting things from it, right? Let's expect it to change things that we can measure.
Right. Last question, which I usually ask all guests for this season. It's about your personal AI assistants. If you can choose just one for personal usage or for professional usage, what it could be?
Well, an LLM. Is that a bad answer, Karyna? I think it's a terrible answer, isn't it?
It's a good answer because...
should I say Google Maps? I really like Google Maps. That's also an AI engine.
Yeah. Actually, when you said about AI as a solution, right, that this is not new and we are focusing very much right now around solution rather than transformations that it causes. I also was thinking about that, yes, AI is already on the market, I don't know how many years. It's like from 19 something, right? It's just the hype is right now here because of Gen AI, because of LLM. LLM changed everything. This is a new wave of technology and innovations because it's different. It's different way how we interact with it, first of all, just in the plain human language. And secondly, it's because it's a tool that we not 100% like understand how does it work and we don't see what is at the back end of it. So this is new and this is something that, give some magic right now.
But that's also why I said what I said, right? I don't want to say any AI because, I don't know, my antivirus might have some AI functionality I don't want to miss out on either, right? But I don't know. And I don't know my Google Maps. What about, we connected on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is an AI-driven algorithm as well, machine learning-driven. Do I want to get rid of that? I don't know, right? But if you talk about the generative AI thing, I could definitely live without Suno. I could definitely live without Midjourney. I would be hard-pressed today to go without having access to a raw large language model. Rather not have it in a GPT-3 size, but a GPT-4 size would be quite cool. O1 also cool, but I actually think the GPT-4 size models is what I want to keep from now on and forever. I like using it for. I'm not saying I'm using it all the time. I'm a good writer, so I don't need to use it all. I know people. But we need to remember there are people out there who can't write, right? And they've suddenly been enabled by these things as well, right? But I use it a lot, even though I'm a good writer, because I use it just to make sure that I didn't miss some things when I wrote, or to analyze my writing, actually. So I wrote something, I said, please analyze this and tell me what tone of voice, blah, 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 give me bullets, and then I get some reflections on what I'm doing. So it's like a sparring partner more than a writing partner. So I like that. I like to use it that way. So I definitely say an LLM, right? Claude, Claude, ChatGPT, doesn't really matter which one. Google, even Google, and I know Grok is also, getting a lot better these days. So I think they're quite kind of the same, a little bit the same. Is that bad to say, Karyna? I don't know.
A bit different purposes, I would say, and the way how you communicate with them. For me personally, Claude is better just because of the purpose of usage, because I usually like to reasoning with something, and it helps me a lot. I won't take like email written by LLM and send it to somebody, never. For me, it's easier just like structure my thoughts and also give brainstorm on something. But besides of the LLM, I also very optimistic about the tools which use predictive models, because, for example, in the sport area, if you have the data is that your trainings for last like 2 years. As a human, you need to maintain it somewhere in the Excel and then review it, calculate something, try to predict what should be my next pace. Right now, having applications that are with AI predictive model, I just connect it to my variables. It takes all the data from them and then can predict something. So
it can predict your next injury.
not, and also it doesn't provide any recommendations about the nutrition, so still limitations.
But the thing I said about LLM, it sounds banal, right? But I think that a lot of companies are right now looking at, should we buy this or that suite, which will cost them, I don't know, $20 approximately per user per month, right? I think this might be just, and you invited me for an AI agents chat, which is further out in the future or more. It's more hype right now, but I actually think that what 98% of employees are using is just a raw large language model they don't even use the web access thing. They don't necessarily use the code interpreter. Developers do, yeah. But most employees would just like to have an LLM access. And you can actually get that for less than $50 per user per month. I made a calculation for a client we did this for. By using just the cloud access and then deploying it in a simple user interface. So $50 a month or $20 a month. I think that people need to step back and look a little bit about how can we actually do this.
And actually here the question, isn't it a shadow of AI? Because if you personally use some large language models within organization for your personal purpose or for enterprise purpose without like IT department knowing that you are using it, and how do you use it and what data you provide to it, this is a question mark.
Yeah, definitely. So, having no control, you're right. We need to make sure we do that as well. But that's part of the whole consideration. When do we need to set guardrails around the technology? How do we need to govern it? When should humans be in the loop? How does IT even control it? I'm not a CISO, so I can't answer that question, right? But obviously, access to data is super important as well, right? And I know some of the providers are not really considerate about this. It's very platformy, right? It's like, here's something you can build something with on your own. But it has access to all your data. Oh, that's your fault. No, it really isn't. You need to help me here, right? I don't think all the providers are taking that seriously right now.
True. All right, Lasse, thank you so much for being with us today. It was very insightful conversation, and I believe that we managed to bring some ideas and some chain of thoughts for our listeners on how, when, and why they can implement or not AI agents in the enterprises, and overall about AI, what it does and what it don't, and what concepts they should follow, some recommendations on it as well. So thank you. And thank you, our listeners. And don't forget to subscribe to not miss our next episode.
Thank you so much.